From the French, Anish, we now go to the Caro-Kann. And Caro-Kann is something you've played 83 times. So quite a bit. What is your take on the Caro-Kann, which happens after e4, c6, d4, d5?
Yeah, the Caro-Kann I've played with black in a few games, not many, but they were quite relevant in my career. So, but of course, most of my games are with white pieces here as well. It's not the opening I play that much. Caro-Kann is the attempt to play the French, but keep the c8 bishop open. And
while this is open, the knight is a little bit sad.
Yes, but I don't think the sadness of the knight is the main disadvantage of the French, the Caro-Kann. Sorry, the main disadvantage of the Caro-Kann is, and it's mostly visible in the advanced variation with e5. So let's play e5. Now you get to put the bishop out of the pawn chain, so bishop f5. Let's say knight f3, and now e6, yeah, completing the pawn chain. So it's like the French, but the bishop is already out. So you think it's amazing. But what has happened is that you still have the same two plans, c5, f6. And the problem is that the c5 plan, which you really want to do, most likely, it will now cost you a tempo because you spent the move on c6. Plus, you spent the move on developing the bishop from c8. So compared to the French, you are sort of 2 moves behind in counterplay.
And you have your bishop out, which in early times was considered like a big thing, but now with space gaining more relevance, perhaps with the modern engines, it might not be that big of a deal, or what do you see?
Well, the bishop exactly is still better, but what we know now, exactly because the space is more relevant, we know now that that bishop in the French, the bad bishop, was not the only problem. And here, yeah, that problem is solved, but the problem of space is still there. So, not to say that Caro-Kann is a bad opening, but just there's still these are the issues Black is struggling with. The lack of space and the fact that compared to the French, he is 2 moves behind in generated counterplay. So there is still the line with c5, knight c6, queen b6, like in the French, but it's now a lot more dangerous because white has time to, start counterplay sometimes with c4 or all sorts of ways.
White can actually fight back rather than just holding it center.
White can play much more actively here than against the French. But besides the advance, there are many different systems here.
I was a bit not surprised, but I thought you feel that e5 is the most principled move here. Is it true? Like for white?
Yeah, I think in the recent... when I was starting out as a kid, you're supposed to put a knight on c3 or d2. But and e5 was like a sideline. But in modern chess, e5 I think is, it's as big as a main line. So many consider it the main line at this point.
Right.
There is of course also this exchange variation here. It's not exactly the exchange, but it's still ED-CD. You create a Carlsbad structure. There's the Panov, which is c4. It's sort of like a reversed Tarrasch. Like those who know the Tarrasch will know what I talk about. White has a bad pawn structure because it creates isolated pawn on d4. But white is trying to be very fast with playing the center. So knight c3, knight f3, bishop comes to g5. Very quickly put the pressure and play for active piece play. But instead of c4, there is also the slow Panov. It's called the Panov variation, where white doesn't play c4 but plays it more positional and plays like a Carlsbad structure. This, as we all know, is
you mean this one? Yes.
Yeah, just pose the bishop to d3, the other bishop to f4, c3, and knight c6. Let's say bishop f4. The knight comes to f3 to d2 castle, and you get the standard structure. And this is a Carlsbad pawn structure, as we will see when we will study the d4 openings.
It's reversed Carlsbad.
Exactly. Okay. Just to show quickly, like the Carlsbad is after d4, d4, d5, c4, e6, knight c3, let's say knight f6, cd5, ed5. And let's say bishop g5, c6, e3. Let's put these pawns. So you get this pawn structure, one of the most fascinating pawn structures in chess, because if you see the imbalance, it's like a symmetry, but not fully. And if you see the Panov, you look carefully, it's the same pawn structure. Yeah, let's say after c3, knight c6, bishop f4. Yeah, let's say you go e6, you see the pawn structure is the same.
Right.
So that's a big thing, and became a lot more popular because, particularly because of Carlsen, who loves.
He plays this a lot. It also comes from London system sometimes, so that's why.
Yeah, there it comes where black goes c5, white goes e3.
So d4, let's say d5,
bishop f4, c5, e3, cd, ed. So black traded on d4 and their white traded on d5.
Yes,
but it's the same thing.
Right.
So yeah.
So understanding this structure actually can help you in numerous openings. In Caro-Kann, in London, in Queen's Gambit Declined.
Exactly. So that's Carlton at some point was obsessed with destruction. He was going for it with both colors, with all sorts of ways, and he was just trying. He tried to play chess like only Carlsbad. At some point, he was playing only wanted to play only Carlsbad. But yeah, that's the other thing, and of course, besides the Panov and this exchange, there is
Classical.
knight c3, knight d2. Yeah, identical. We take on e4, knight takes e4.
And I myself have played this opening many times with black. And earlier, everyone, like I used to play bishop f5 and I saw everyone playing it. But these days, knight f6 is becoming all the rage.
Yeah, it's very funny. So we'll see in the game we're gonna look at, which was played when I was a little child, like one of the earliest games in the database. My opponent went for this knight f6. And again, there was the same thing that I felt that something was not, like I felt that somehow it's very difficult for me to play knight f6 ef. But at the time, it didn't exist. Like, I don't remember knowing about this system. So I thought, like, what is so strange? He played something which I didn't know. It's not supposed to be a thing. It felt so uncomfortable. I didn't know this. But it is
You felt uncomfortable, and now, many years later, this has become one of the main lines.
Very much so. We spoke about this in the Petro. I don't know if you remember, if the viewer remembers.
Oh, yes, with the bug house example. Yes.
Bug house example. This pawn structure is amazing. The king on g8 is going to be super safe because of these 4 pawns.
But Anish, we'll talk about it when we come to the game, so I don't want to talk more on it right now. But bishop f5, this is like one of the main moves.
Exactly. And the line goes knight to g3, hitting the bishop. The bishop goes to g6. We go for h4. White goes for h4, gaining space there. Black goes h6. White goes knight f3, threatening knight e5. So black goes usually knight d7. And now white can grab the space move further with h5, bishop h7, and now trade this bishop with bishop d3. You take, e6. Now white develops the c1 bishop, d2 or f4, usually to d2. And Karpov used to play this. Yes, Karpov used to play this with queen c7 and long castle, and these are the. This is how Caro-Kann used to be played. My coach played the Caro-Kann. This is how the Caro-Kann used to be played.
Who?
My coach, my first coach.
Okay.
Praslov is his name. Is I think he's like a national master. Stronger than FIDE master. He like rated 2350, maybe 2400. He touched. He was a very positional player, and he played the Caro-Kann, and he was always going for this queen c7 long castle. That's how Karpov played. But throughout it's not so simple. White can put pressure. For example, queen e2, knight e5 is one way. Yeah, then a lot of pressure. And this structure after knight e5, d5. White will later go f4, g4 in endgame. And it's like this called the bathtub, I think. Like a bathtub.
Bathtub. Oh, yeah. I didn't know this. I used to say like a circle.
No, okay, yeah, but it's like 2 bathtubs facing each other.
Nice.
But yeah, it's dangerous. So then Black came up with the idea of going bishop, let's say 12, bishop e7.
Ah, yes. Instead of long castling here,
it's a bishop e7 and short castle.
Yes.
And this is very dangerous because white often moves the knight from g3, let's say to e4 or f1, and then goes g4. But then black, you don't have to take. Let's say knight e4 castle.
Okay.
And g4, and like it's super dangerous. But it turns out that black can capture on g4, and after rook g1, like plays like f5, and these things are not so simple for.
It's very theoretical,
very sharp,
very
and
sharp.
with computers it turned out to be kind of okay. Though at some point my friend Parmarjanagi, Indian player who used to play competitively and was one of the biggest Indian talents, of the previous generation, was my age, not the young generation now. He was finding so many ideas here with white. He won like game after game. His thing he was always playing this g4, but every time in a slightly different version.
He would move this knight to a different square,
or first king b1, or first to knight to f1, or to e4, or he would play the variations of this g4 idea, and he kept beating these players. Like there was this guy Lalit Babu.
Yes.
Who was playing only Caro-Kann. I think Negi beat Lalit Babu like 10 times in this position. But yeah, this was a big theory debate until this knight f6 became a thing.
Which is this move.
Yeah. And this is all the rage now. I think one thing we still have to mention before we conclude the theory part of this Caro-Kann business is that after e5, now first of all, black has this c5 option, which is
Ah,
very
this is the
popular.
pawn sacrifice line.
Yeah, I face it online all the time, like the blitz weapon of many players.
And what is the point of it? Like, why does black lose a tempo and give up a pawn?
Because now compared to the French, you go knight c6, knight f3. Let's say one explanation is that no, it's a bad comparison because we should compare. In the French, you don't go dc. In French, you go c3, right? We should compare it with that. So now we go knight c6, knight f3, and now we're gonna go bishop out, and then e6.
And then e6, and that's a very good version of French.
Again, we have the bishop out, yes. But compared to the bishop f5 line, move 3, the bishop went directly to g4, which is even better square.
Because it
keeps pressure.
Pressure on d4.
Yeah, so this is the dream. And of course, after 4 dc5, actually black can even play e6 now, because white has already gave up the center a little bit. So this is a different story. And there are debates on this position, and yeah, it's c5 is definitely
You think it's playable?
Of course,
C5.
very playable, very playable. But the main line is bishop f5. But now, apart from knight f3, white has all sorts of ways. So the old way used to be to go knight c3, very strange move. But you wait for e6, so e6 black plays, and then white would go g4.
Ah, this Shirov used to play.
Yes, all the time. Bishop g6, and then you would go knight g2 first, and the line would go c5, h4, h5, knight f4. And this was another such thing that it was supposed to be good for white at the time when I was a kid, but I had bad experiences here, you know, and I kept going, and I felt like this is strange because they would go bishop h7,
Give up the pawn.
The h5 pawn, they would go knight c6, and they would just destroy me there on the queen side.
Yes.
So one of those things that now with the modern computers, black is, white is okay, but white has to be very accurate here.
And black's play is very easy. You just bring your pieces out, put pressure in the center.
Yeah, white's very uncoordinated here. So knight c3 a little bit out of fashion. But what became very popular recently, for example, is another waiting of h4.
Oh yes, I never understand this. Like why wait with h4?
Oh, h4 is amazing because
Game
now
space.
if you go first of all, there's a great trap. If e6 is game over, g4.
8-year-old trap. Yes.
I think I once beat Hikaru like that. Because I used to play knight f3 always, and he removed at some point e6.
Oh.
So I think I went h4, e6, g4. I think I Hikaru or some other very strong player who, I sort of confused him by kept going for knight f3, and then at some point he thought, okay, knight f3, e6 happens all the time, and then he removed e6, but I went h4. After e6, g4, I won the piece.
Anish, is this a correct understanding in Caro-Kann that in knight c3 lines where white goes for, let's say, h4 here, then h6 is correct to meet it with, while when it's e5 lines, which is the advanced variation here where we are looking at h4, here it's better to actually take space with h5 and just sort of equalize the space there because white already has space with e5 as well.
Yeah, it is correct. I'm just trying to I never thought of it this way. So I'm trying to think what is the justification for it. I think one justification is that in h6 lines, if you go g4, white can expand much more freely.
You mean here, right?
Yeah, white can expand here much more freely on the king side because the center is closed. While when the center is open, g4 is a very double-edged move. So indeed, h4, h5 happens, and then there is a lot of theory here. c4 or bishop d3, and this h4, h5 created an extra nuance. The g5 square is now weakened. Of course, it has also disadvantages for white. The g4 square is also weakened, but it creates some new kind of imbalance in the position, and a lot of theories around these lines.
And lastly, I think these are the main things here, right? e5, knight c3, ed, and there's some f3.
Oh, yeah, the fantasy variation.
variation.
True. Though there is the fantasy variation with f3. Because black's c6 move is actually quite timid, white can afford to play f3. And when you get some funny lines here, one of the main moves is actually just to play just e6. And you have like a French with a strange f3 c6 inclusion. And what you sometimes have is that later white will go e5, black will anyway go c5, white will anyway go f4, and you transpose into some French. It happens.
Yes.
Yeah, it happens.
Yes.
So this is the very unusual position and very interesting one. That's a big, good one. Again, as I mentioned in this course, we cannot cover all the sidelines because there are so many. I mean, I can also troll you with sidelines. We forgot knight c3, knight f3 instead of d4.
Yes, this.
I mean, we forgot many things, but it's just knight f3, d5, d3 we forgot. But no, we didn't forget. If we're gonna start looking at everything, we will. Caro-Kann itself deserves a full-fledged course. So it's not like forgetting systems. I'm just not mentioning, but there are many little systems. There is 93D5, EDCD95 also. Some people play.
That is again what Carlson had once said in one of his podcasts, right? That it was the Henrik Carlson variation.
Really? No,
Yes.
I've seen it.
I think after D4 or
I
just
think directed it
direct,
to
direct,
avoid
yes.
95, to avoid 96, and then they go 96 bishop b5.
But maybe this is more inspired, I guess, from reversed color of Ragozin or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's again, this a cardboard structure, so you can
Yes.
find it in D4 openings reversed. A lot of sidelines, of course. Caro-Kann, very rich opening.
Who would you recommend to go for Caro-Kann and who would you recommend French? Like, is there and Sicilian? Like, see, it's clear Sicilian is like a aggressive opening, but the difference between Caro-Kann and French.
Yeah, I think besides aggression, I don't think Sicilian is necessarily has to be very aggressive. I think a big divider between people that play Sicilian and people that play Caro-Kann and French. I think the big thing is how do you feel about lacking space? Because in Sicilian you don't give up space, and in E45 you don't give up space. People who really like space, they struggle a little bit with Caro-Kann and the French both. Now with the Caro-Kann, it is for the people who are okay with giving up space, but they want to have good pieces. They don't want to have bad pieces at all. They want they're very positional. They want to have they want to have pretty pieces. They don't like the knights on the edge of the board. They don't like bishops trapped behind pawn chains. While the French is for the special kind of people.
People who like weird things.
The freaks of nature. No, but I'm joking. In fact, French is for the people who like to see. You don't judge the book by its cover. Who like to see the depth, who like counter attack, who like to buy those cakes that look ugly but taste very good.
Nice.
You know, they're you know, they like jeans with holes, you know, because it looks at first that it's a hole, but actually it's fashion. It's they're going
They are
beyond
the
the
deep
first.
people.
They decide deeper. They're going and they like to provoke. They say like, oh, I have a bad bishop, I have no space. Like, punish me. Oh, you can't punish me. Did c5 and f6 break hurt you? Oh, I'm so sorry. You didn't see it coming. You know, this kind of people.
Nice.
Yeah.
So these are the kinds of people. That people should first realize what they are and choose their
All
opening.
the way around. If you like the French, you know what kind of person you are. You know, maybe this is a better psychoanalysis from the opening preference.
And now we go to your game with Alex Malofiev from Chigorin Memorial, or I think Chigorin tournament 2005. You were like 11 years old.
May, so I'm 10.
You're 10. Wow.
But the hilarious part, so it's actually hilarious. My memories. I have very vivid memory of this day.
This day, huh?
This is a special day in my chess career.
18th of May.
Third round.
Yeah.
So I started the tournament well. Usually around that time, my level was like 2100. I'm 2100. So when I would play these opens in St. Petersburg, they're quite weak. They would be like strongest players would be like 24 like IMs, maybe one GM sometimes, but usually no GMs. And what would happen is usually I would lose to 2400 kind of guy, then win the next game because I would be paired against someone 2200 or lower. Then I would again get the 2400 kind of guy, so I would lose. I would like win, lose, and it would be a normal tournament for me. I would score like 4 or 5 depending on how the pairing went. But here, yeah, sometimes I would slightly score above my head, and here I played the 2300 guy. So special seed. I was always brought to this tournament by my grandmother. Usually, at least. At the time, I have also a big family. I have two sisters. So 2005, I'm thinking if I already had the third. If I had this, yeah, I think my sister is. Although, yeah, she was very small, I guess. Yeah, so my grandmother would, my parents were busy with my younger sisters, and my grandmother would bring me to tournaments. And she was like big fan as well
of chess.
of my chess in particular. She was not a chess fan. She was a fan of grandchildren, I think. But so she was really into my chess. and she was nicely, meticulously writing down, like she was the chess base before the. She's like alternative chess base. She was writing down all the results, everything, scores, and everything. So she kept the notebooks, which are like chess base but without bugs. It would keep all the records straight. There would be no bugs. Nothing would go wrong. Nothing. There would be no integrity errors in database. It would be perfect. But so I played this gentleman, this Malafeyev Alex. So big gentleman came from a hard day of work, maybe, or of leisure, because I suspect that he was intoxicated.
Oh.
Maybe he was tired, but he came. He sat down to the board like this with all of his self. And he never changed his posture. He was just like this behind the board, and he started playing. The c6, d5 takes, knight f6, knight f6. I thought, okay, what's this? I was confident. I was this ef, and this guy, he looked completely out, like exhausted. And at some point, and okay, I have also better pawn structures. Like, yeah, just play, develop, and now with pawn endgame. I don't know, like better pawn structure.
Yes, exactly. I would also think.
Yeah,
that
at the
way.
time, yeah. Let's just see the game also, the full game. Okay, here he played the move.
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted people to think what is the way in which black should sort of develop.
Yeah.
It's not. It's the most common move, but there is clearly a good move here.
Yes. So he played the natural move, bishop to d6.
Right.
Developing the bishop and also preparing the short castle. And I already knight f3 is not accurate. You have to, in this position, no, you don't have to, but the main setup is to go c3, bishop d3, queen c2, target the h-pawn, knight comes to e2, and sometimes you even castle long, or short, but like this is the setup, knight to e2. Knight f3, and this is natural, but it's not accurate, because you get this nasty pin, bishop g4, not pleasant. But I thought, everything is okay. Queen c2, very clever. I thought, if you take...
Breaking the pin, yes.
Yeah, maybe I can take, although I don't think I can take, because goes g6, right? Yeah, but maybe even I can just recapture on f3. Anyway, somehow he should have taken, but he didn't. I even think that I realized at some point he should have taken, and then I was like, oh, nice. So then knight h4, 2 bishops as well. A lot of double pawns, I thought. Yeah, I didn't really realize that this is good. I thought it was this brick there. A lot of double pawns, 2 bishops, like I can never be worse, right? But yeah, okay. I think...
Suddenly you gave up your 2 bishops.
I probably thought, okay, I'm not going to draw it, whatever. Okay, but I'm no rating, yeah? 2000 is like a god I'm playing.
Sure.
Anyway, I'm playing solid, whatever. Yeah, some of the pawn is lost, but I think, okay, whatever, I'll hold it. And, but it's difficult, yeah? The pawns are coming.
He's also now enjoying himself.
He's enjoying himself so much that at some point, he's actually asleep. So he's asleep somewhere. He wakes up, he plays g5, rook e5. Suddenly he's like, oh, okay, whatever. Then he goes here. Anyway, I'm so weak at the time that I'm managing even to mess up this position, and somehow I lost one more pawn. Yeah, and now actually still tricky endgame. But again, he's somewhere asleep. He wakes up. He wakes up. He plays king d5, and it's only check. Very important, because I go rook d1 next, and I get to trade the rook.
Oh.
And now I'm safe. So completely annoyed. He is okay. Draw. It comes out, and he says apparently, as my grandma says, apparently he says like, oh, I was sweating 7 sweats. Apparently it's a Russian expression. I was sweating 7 sweats today, and my grandma is so proud. She's like, So that day we went to our relatives for like a family like gathering. And it was very often that I would be going to these gatherings, but later, because my tournaments would happen. So we arrived there later, everybody's already there. And my grandmother, she's there, there's like a full table full of my relatives. So nobody cares about my chess at all, apart from my grandma. Okay, they know that, okay, I'm kind of good, but, whatever, yeah. And then she's like, ladies and gentlemen, today, my grandson, mind you, made a draw with a 2300, and they're all like they also were like because my grandma was funny a little bit, so they were always making fun of her a bit as well, like Luda, what's up, what is that? It's like, but she was so proud, like 20, and she assumed that they will understand the greatness of this achievement, of her grandson. That he made and he said that he was sweating 7 sweats today. I don't think my grandma realized the guy was completely wasted. Falling asleep, sweating, I think, from way before the game had nothing to do with this. But somehow, yeah, I remember everything very clearly of that day.
But I think your grandma actually did amazing, right? Because till now, you remember this episode.
Yeah, of course.
Which maybe she didn't do it for the others there who didn't understand, but for you. And now you remember.
Did it for her. She was very proud. She was really proud. But it was nice, yes. I mean, I have a lot of hilarious stories with my grandma, how she was bringing me to tournaments. Unfortunately, she passed away relatively recently. But okay, she had like great grandchildren, so it's also had a long life.
Yeah, I think next time I play Caro-Kann, I'm going to remember your grandma for sure. The story.
No, but it was hilarious. Like my mom was laughing about it for days after that. She was like, grandma went to them and told them about 2300, but they have no clue. Like the rating's nothing. They don't know nothing. Like 2300, like for them it's a number. Like what is 2300?
They might be thinking he earns $2,300.
They thought like whatever. Yeah, I mean, didn't understand anything. It was a funny story. Yeah.